Hello and welcome back to Math 8. This is a video over Section 5, and what we're going to be doing is we're going to be solving multi-step equations with variables on both sides. So we talked about solving equations with variables on both sides, but now we're going to involve more steps. So first thing we want to do, steps in solving this, we want to be able to distribute. Are there parentheses? We want to get rid of those. Combine like terms on each side of the equation, and then isolate the variable on one side of the equation, put all the numbers on the other, and then verify are we correct. So let's go in here and let's solve this linear equation. Now what you have is you have just more steps. Okay, the problems are just going to get increasingly a little bit more difficult, okay? And what you're going to notice here is that you've got 8 times this quantity, 8 plus 2, minus 3 times the quantity x plus 4 is equal to 3 times the quantity x minus 7, and then plus 9. So first things first, what we want to do is we want to perform the distributive property. So I'm going to multiply 8 times x, 8 times 2, okay? I'm going to distribute my negative 3, okay, into x and then 4, distribute my positive 3 here, and then we just have our plus 9. So let's go ahead and do that. 8 times x is just going to give me 8x, okay, plus, and I'm going to show a lot of steps here, okay, so I'm going to do 8 times 2, all right, and then minus 3 times x, okay, minus 3 times 4, okay, and then this is all equal to 3 times x, so positive 3x, 3 times negative 7, so plus 3 times negative 7, and then plus 9, okay? And that's it. All right, so now what I'm going to do, now that I've cleared all my parentheses, what I need to do is multiply my numbers out. All right, so I've got 8x plus 16 minus 3x minus 12, okay? And then that's going to equal 3x minus 21 plus 9. So all I'm doing, and the one thing you got to make sure that you do is to keep your signs, clear. Okay, negative 3 times x is going to give me a negative 3x. Negative 3 times 12 gives me or 4 gives me a negative 12. Okay, 3 times an x is just 3x, but then 3 times negative 7 gives me negative 21. So that's the biggest thing that you guys have to keep in account for this. Are your signs, okay? So let's go ahead and let's combine our like terms. So on the left side of my equal sign, I can combine my 8x and the 3x, okay? I can combine these two to give me 5x, okay? And then I can combine the 16 and the negative 12, okay? Those are like terms. So 16 minus 12 gives me positive 4. So I have 5x plus 4, all right? And then I've got 3x, and then I've got negative 21 plus 9. Okay, now you can do negative 21 plus 9, or you can do 9 minus 21, either one. But when I combine these two, that's going to give me negative 12. Okay, and so then the next thing I want to do is get all my x values on one side. And I'm going to move my 3x over to the other side over here. So I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. Okay. And that's going to give me 2x plus 4 is equal to negative 12. Okay, and then if I subtract a 4 from both sides, all right, then that's going to end up giving me 2x is equal to negative 16. Divide by 2, divide by 2. So 2's divide out, and so I've got x is equal to negative 8. As my value for x, okay, and that's what I've got. So these problems do get a lot more involved, okay, and there's a lot more steps. So you just have to realize that, once you get down to, you clear the parentheses, you get down to some, and then you combine like terms, you're back at like a two-step equation or a multi-step equation, but something that you've been doing. So all we're doing is we're just going from, first thing we did, we were doing one-step equations, two-step equations, and then we have multi-step equations, but then we added in this other part for using the distributive property. Okay, so we're just adding in another piece, okay? All right, so let's go on from there. All right, let's go ahead and solve this one. Now, this one's a little bit interesting. Strictly because we're dealing with fractions, okay? So we're going to solve this equation for r. Now what I'm going to do is first want to clear my parentheses. So I notice I have parentheses here. I have 3 times 3/4 r minus 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to distribute my 3 here into each of those terms. So I'm going to write 1/2 r plus 3 over 1 times 3 over 4 times r plus 3 times negative 2, and that's going to equal 1/4 r plus 8. Okay, now the only thing I need to do is multiply these terms here and here. Okay, so 3 over 1 times 3 over 4. Remember, when we multiply fractions, we're just going to multiply across. All right, so I've got 1/2 r plus 9/4 r minus 6 is equal to 1/4 r plus 8. Okay, now the next thing I want to do is I want to get a common denominator between these two. Notice I have a common denominator of 4 between these fractions, but this one has a 2. So I'm going to multiply this one by 2 over 2. All right, and that's going to give me 2/4 r. So 2/4 r plus 9/4 r minus 6 is equal to 1/4 r plus 8. Okay, so now if I've got 2/4 r plus 9/4 r, that's going to give me 11/4 r. So 11/4 r, and then minus 6 is equal to 1/4 r plus 8. Okay, so now, all right, what I want to do is get all my values with r on one side, values with my numbers on the other side. So I'm going to move this up here. Just to give me a little bit more room, I'm going to rewrite this 11/4 r minus 6 equals 1/4 r plus 8. Okay, so 1/4 r plus 8. Now what I'm going to do to keep everything positive is I'm going to move my 1/4 r to the other side and then add my 6 to the right side. Okay, so first step, to combine my r's, I'm going to subtract 1/4 r from both sides. So minus 1/4 r. All right, and that's going to give me 11/4 minus 1/4 r minus 6 is equal to positive 8. Now, you don't have to necessarily write this step, but I just want to show you, that when I'm subtracting these, I'm just going to subtract my numerator. So 11 minus 1 is going to give me 10. So 10/4 r minus 6 is equal to 8. Now I'm going to add 6 to both sides, okay? So that's going to give me 10/4 r is equal to 14. Now 10/4, that fraction can be simplified, okay? And let me write that up here, all right? It's got a lot of steps on this one. So 10/4 r is equal to 14. So 10/4, I'm going to rewrite that as 5/2. Each of these numbers are divisible by 2. Okay, so I can simplify that fraction and make these numbers a little bit smaller. So I'm going to rewrite that as 5/2 r is equal to 14 over 1. Now I'm going to multiply both sides by 2/5, by the reciprocal, okay, by 2/5. So then 5 divided by 5 is 1, 2 divided by 2 is 1. So we're just left with r on the left side. So I've got 14 times 2, which is 28, over 1 times 5, which is 5. So my answer for r is an answer of 28/5, okay, and that's what we get. So quite a bit of work to get there, okay. These problems are going to be pretty involved, but it's important that we can go through all of these steps to arrive at our answer. Okay, one last problem. We're going to solve this equation. Now this one has decimals. So same thing, okay. I want to clear my fraction, or clear my parentheses, and then move on from there. So I'm going to distribute my 6, okay, to each of those parts. So I've got 6 times 0.5x plus 6 times 14. And that's going to equal, I'm going to multiply 5.5 by each of these parts. So I've got 5.5 times 4x plus 5.5 times negative 2. And then we're going to subtract 3.5x from that side as well. Okay, so now, all right, let's take a look. 6 times 0.5, and that's going to give me positive 3. So this is going to give me a 3x. Okay, 6 times 14 is going to give me 84. And then 5.5 times 4 is going to give me 22x. So 22x. 5.5 times negative 2 is going to give me negative 11, so minus 11. All right, and then minus 3.5x. All right. Okay, so now can I combine anything on either side of my equal sign? And the answer is yes. I can combine my 22x minus 3.5x. So if I take 22 minus 3.5, that's going to give me 18.5x. So 18.5x minus 11 is equal to 3x plus 84. Okay, now, thinking about where do I want to move these, okay, to keep everything positive, what I would probably do, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my 3x over to the right side, and then I'm going to add 11 to the left side, okay? So first step, let me subtract 3x from both sides. All right, so that cancels out. I've got 84 is equal to 18.5 minus 3 is going to give me 15.5x. And then subtract 11 from that. Okay, now to solve for x, I want to add 11 to both sides. Okay, so add 11. All right, those are going to cancel out. So I've got 84 plus 11 is going to give me 95 is equal to 15.5x. Divide both sides by 15.5. Okay. And those are going to divide out. So I've got x is equal to 95 divided by 15.5, and that answer is going to give us some sort of crazy decimal. So let's leave this for now as 95 over 15.5, okay? That's our answer. But then let's also write that as that x is approximately 6.13, okay? And that's how we want to leave our answers, okay? So that's all I've got for this. So yeah, guys, we just did 3 problems, all right? The only way to get better at this is to do more problems, okay? Do more problems to get better, all right? And so we got to practice, all right? So practice this, practice to get better, all right? And I think you guys are doing great. We'll talk to you soon. See you in a bit. Bye!